Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm sorry I'm late. Meron lang akong inasikaso na business so kailangan gawin ngayong gabi. So medyo nawala sa schedule. Kamusta kayong lahat? Kamusta kayong lahat? Can you hear me? Do we have audio? Right. Okay. Dahil late tayo at at medyo late na rin ng gabi. So mag-hangout na lang tayo kung ano-ano na lang ang sabihin natin. May audio na. Sinigawan na ako ni Grace eh. Vetch. Si Grace Malinaw Vetch. Okay. Kanina kasi may kausap din ako nandito. Umalis na. Oo. Bukas may mga announcements na gagawin si Attorney Trixie so kaya hindi siya makakasali sa atin ngayon. Meron siyang i-announce. So exciting, no? Hindi ko rin alam kung ano yung i-announce niya but she has to do that right now before she turns in. Okay, kamusta kayong lahat? May mga friends tayo from YouTube and Facebook. Before we continue, huwag niyo kalimutan mag-like and share, no? Para makita tayo ng mga ibang skincare routine ka minsan. Paano yan? Yung kapugihan. Ano lang ginagamit ko? PH Car. PH Car. Kung alam niyo yan, yun yung pinang sa mukha ko. Pagkagising ko, lalagay ako niyan. Tapos kung kumain, maglalagay na naman ako ng PH Car. Tapos bago matulog, pagkatapos ko matulog, yan. PH Car lagi. Oh. Hindi ako nagpa-plug kasi hindi naman ako endorser ng PH Car pero yun ang ginagamit ko, wala tayong magagawa. Okay? Yun ang ginagamit ko. PH Car. Sabi ni Delcy Monte Cristo, sabi diha, PH Care kakaroon. Yun talaga totoo eh. Kailangan ng mga Fabcon na gagamitin ko sa mukha ko. Medyo sobrang bango nun. Mag-a-announce si Attorney Trixie sa TV. Something. Okay? Pero importante yun. So I think it has something to do with the filling up of positions and all that stuff. But it's exciting, di ba? Dahil meron na namang bagong mga secretary at saka kung ano-ano dyan. Mga head ng mga agency. Okay na ba, Ramon? Okay na? Na-satisfy ka na doon sa aking skincare routine? PH Car lang, friend. PH Car. Oh. PH Car. Okay? PH Car. Yun yung ginagamit ko. Importante sa akin yun. Si Kath. Good morning daw, sabi niya. Nakatulugan ko po kayo last night. Okay lang, ganyan ka naman talaga eh. What was that? Happy Wednesday from Southern, what was that? Maryland. Maryland, yung sa US, yung malapit sa yung training center ng Navy, US Navy. That's Maryland, di ba? That is Annapolis, if I'm not mistaken. Ma-retain si Tugari, I don't know. Hindi ko talaga alam kung ano yung i-announce niya and which agencies. But she will freshen the fresh. I think it has something to do with whatever Attorney Trixie has put in this computer, like a filter or like anti-liners or I don't know. Kung anong nilagay niya dito, bakit ganyan yung tsura ko. Alright, di ko alam. Turkmenistan, wow! Turkmenistan, that is in Eastern Europe, I think. Yeah. Hello from Madrid, sabi niya, si Lorena Seno. Kumusta? Anong brand ang iyong tinostos call? O anong tinostos? Ano ibig sabihin ng tinostos? Bastos yata yan eh. Tinustos. Ano ibig sabihin? Hello, hello, Miriam. Sabi niya, si Ana at Police. Si Ana at Police, yung taga Maryland. Good morning from Australia. Okay, si Mercy. Si Attorney Trixie ay hindi natin magiging guest ngayon unless tumawid siya dito, umuulan eh. Ang lakas ng ulan sa labas eh. Rome. And then there's France. Awesome. Oh, may Dublin in Ireland. Oh. Kinuskos, Rab. Tinustos. Yun ba yun? Hello from Dubai. Guten Abend. Ito, Germany. Yossi, Marlboro Lights. Marlboro Lights. Okay, Northridge, California. I meant nakatulog po ako listening to. Okay. That's alright. Soothing kasi yung boses ko kaya nakatulog ka. Alright. Ang hirap pasahin yan. 0823 Rab. Dubai. From Houston, mabuhay. Uy, merong Israel. And then there's Houston. Alright, Misamis. May local tayo. Balingasag, Misamis Oriental. Shout out lahat sa mga friends natin. And Zurich in Switzerland. Norway. Scandinavia. Canada. Okay. I agree with you on journalism's free speech. All right, let's talk about a little bit about that. Vienna, Austria, New Zealand, and there's Italy. May Japan, merong England. All right, awesome. We are truly international. Kita niyo na yan? South Korea. Sino yung nag-wave dyan? Sweden is waving. Yeah, we already waved back to you. Hello from Cebu. Si Rosemary. Morning, you look okay with less beard. Yeah, nag-shave ako kagabi dahil mukha na akong basura eh. So ngayon mukha na lang ako tubig kanal pero kagabi mukha akong basura. Meron tayong India. Okay. Alright. Enough of the greetings and stuff. Watching from Pluto. Yan. It's not even a planet anymore. How do you feel about that, sir? It's not even a planet anymore. HK. Ohio. Saudi Arabia. Arizona. And there's Calgary. Where's the Calgary? Where's that? No, wala na. Oh, no. Santa Rosa, Laguna. Rhode Island. What happened to the new BIR commissioner? Tony, hindi ko alam kung ano nangyari sa kanya. Well, anyway, hindi pa naman siya nakaupo yata. If what you're talking about is the one that was chosen by the new president. But if you're talking about the old one, I don't know anything about him anymore. Nag-ahit cutter. Hindi ho ako nag-ahit, nag-trim lang. Trim lang baga. Okay, we have Vancouver. Houston, we have a problem. Taiwan, Davao City. Alright then, okay. Enough of these things. Ba naman? Okay. Last time, we talked about not letting anyone tell you that you cannot be a journalist or you cannot do the activities of journalists on your own without having to work for a corporation or a business that is engaged in journalism or mass media. Okay? Do not let anyone tell you that you cannot do it, or that you are substandard, or that you cannot do it because you do not know how to find the truth and tell the truth or something like that. Journalism has nothing to do with truth. It has something to do with experiencing something in the real world analyzing and putting them into certain expression in a method of expression, which to some are words, to some are like lines and colors, and some are lyrics and sound and notes and all that stuff. And even to some, I actions without sound. And to some, just completely nothing, diba? But it's still an expression of our experience of the world, right? That is what journalism is. And if you package your expression as news, then you are doing something that would a journalist would do, because you are doing something that somebody would want to throw out into the world as news, okay, as news. But the freedom of expression, speech, and the press is not limited to the activities of a journalist, because it also those three rights also apply to other forms of methods or ways to express or to convey their message. So it's not necessarily always news. So there's commentary, like yung mga nagsusulat ng column sa newspaper. Merong painting, merong song, merong poetry, merong porn. Okay, not porn. Iba na lang. Uh, eh, Soft porn or movies, alright? So mga ganon. It is not, those freedoms are not limited to only journalism. Just because there's press there doesn't mean that it is limited to journalism, which is packaging everything that you experience in the world and throwing them out as news. Okay? Such that hindi pwedeng ikumpara ang vlogger at saka ang isang journalist when it comes to uh, when it comes to going to Malacanang and looking at watching or witnessing a press briefer of the president or any of the bodies of government, and then call them journalists, kasi hindi naman necessary na news ang ilalabas nila after they experienced what they had experienced there. It's not necessarily true that what they are inevitably coming up with as product is going to be news. It's not always news that is an outcome of journalism. Sometimes there is a documentary and it's not news. So, ano bang itatawag natin sa mga journalists na gumagawa ng documentary? Ex-journalists or sometimes journalists, but right now you're what, documentarian or what? But if you see on old media, which means yung broadcast na nakasanayan natin and radio, there are people there that make documentaries. Diba? And documentary is not news. There are people there that make like magazine features. Diba? They interview people not necessarily involved in the news or not necessarily involved in the current events which are being reported by journalists in the news of the day. Diba? It's not every day, it's not every time na ang mga journalists ay nagbabalita. But what were they doing even if they are not producing news? It's the same thing. Going out to the world, observing the world, the real world, okay, and putting in their analysis on these things, on these facts that they get, and then putting it back out to the world in a form of some kind of message and publishing it as either news, documentary, or feature, ganyan-ganyan, through mass media, okay, like broadcast, like print. Ang mga newspapers naman hindi exclusively for news. There is also advertising. There's also editorial writing. There's also opinion. There's also something about history there. and there's trivia, and there's cartoons. So ang dami-dami, it's not just news. And to assume that the bloggers who would go uh, to the Malacanang press corps would necessarily have to produce news is wrong. Kasi parang bakit wala ba kaming freedom to do anything we want with the information that we get? And in doing what we want on the information we get has nothing to do with truth. Has nothing to do with truth. Kasi when you input your ideas into this information and processing them and analyzing them and making deductions and analogies and all that stuff, you are not making news. You are not creating or writing news, but opinion. Opinion. And when it is opinion, truth has little to do with it as a kind of standard for whether or not your message has to be published. Okay, so hindi pwedeng i-judge ng gobyerno, halimbawa, ang mga tao on how they express what they get from the real world in a form of information. They can do whatever they want with that information. And it so happens that some people who would go out there and observe the world would make news, but not all. There's no justification why we should conclude or always assume that if you go to the Malacanang press corps and observe a press briefing there, that what you will come up with is news. And therefore, since bloggers are not trained in mass media and in journalism and do not know anything about the truth, then they should not be allowed to go there. What? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Uh, Press. Okay, let's go to press. Ang isang press, printing press. Let's just get the most basic definition of the press. Printing press. Ang printing press ba news lang ang biniprint yan? No. They also print and publish novels, short stories, flyers, posters for anything at all, for business advertisements. That's the press. Do they know anything about the truth? And do we judge, does society judge their output based on the standards of totoo ba to? Hindi. No. So if we do not judge the press based on the standard of truth on their outcomes, okay, or their outputs, then why should we judge the bloggers and bloggers based on the truth? See? So, there's already two arguments against that argument na hindi pwedeng ang mga bloggers at bloggers mag-participate doon sa Malacanang press corps. Bakit? Because on the basis of your belief that the press, Malacanang press corps, should only come up with news, you are already wrong. Because if you think that being the press, by being journalists, you are the only ones allowed by law, by the Constitution to do this, you are completely wrong about that. And second, even if the Constitution uses the word press in that provision, if we follow the definition of press, even presses, printing presses, do not do only news. They also do other things like books, like posters, like short stories, like lyrics to a song. Printing press ang gumagawa ng song hits noong araw. Diba? Ang printing press din ang gumagawa ng comics noong araw. Sila yung nagpiprint at saka nagpo-publish ng mga yun. So, ginamit ko yung word na press, even the press do other things aside from making news, publishing news. And if we say the right has to be adjudged on using the standard of truth, well, even the journalists cannot pass if they were in fact judged on the standard of truth. Bakit? Because nobody, no one person, no one institution, no one school, no one religion, no one person knows the absolute truth. Okay? And therefore, hindi mo yan sila pwedeng pagbawalan na mag-participate doon at mag-express ng kanilang opinion or kanilang to exercise their freedom of speech, expression, and the press. Bakit? Kasi bawal yan sa Constitution. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they do with the information. It doesn't matter. They are allowed to publish it. Now, where does libel and slander come in? And malicious publications or yung isa pang crime na, yeah, I think that's it. Yung seditious na mga publications. It comes in when after you publish, okay, your expression or your news or your speech, after you speak, meron kang sinaraan lumabas doon sa sinasabi mo na may sinisiraan kang tao na walang basis, na walang ebidensya, na hindi totoo. So ikaw ngayon ay nagsabi na hindi totoo. But when were you adjudged as having told the truth or a falsity? It's only after you spoke, after you published your work, or after you expressed. Diba? So, you can only adjudge using the standard of truth only after you have exercised your right to press, to speech, and to expression. Walang sinasabi niya na pwede mong pagbawalan sila at all from exercising those three rights because they are not telling the truth. Because, see, nobody knows the truth until there is a claim to truth. Yung claim to truth is an example of claim to truth is a statement about something that people, after hearing or after reading it or experiencing it, can use to compare it with what they know about reality, and their truth comes out. Kasi kung halimbawa, merong isang tao, journalist, vlogger, pumunta doon sa Malacanang press corps, nanood doon, tapos may in-announce kunyari si executive secretary. Tapos ang in-announce niya ay si A ay pumunta sa B kasama si C. Tapos itong taong ito na pumunta doon, nakuha niya yung impormasyon na A pumunta sa B kasama si C. Ang binalita niya ay si C pumunta sa B kasama si A. So nung narinig natin yung story na yan, yung claim to truth na yan, we compare it to what we also know of the same incident that he is describing. We look at it, titingnan natin, may ibang accounts yan, may naka-video doon, and we see, hindi naman pala si C ang pumunta sa B kasama si A. Ang nangyari ay si A pumunta sa B kasama si C. So now, you have a justification to say, itong taong ito is not telling the truth. But before he made that news account, we could not possibly say if he is telling the truth or not. See? So we could not have possibly stopped him from speaking or from publishing that news or that story or that opinion before knowing what he has to say at all in the first place. Okay, so we have to hear the person first before we know if he is telling the truth or not. See? So using the truth argument cannot stop you from publishing your own stuff. Like whether or not it's news, it's opinion, it's art, it's whatever, music. No one can stop you from doing that. No one at all. No one at all. If using the standard of truth. All right? Because no one knows the absolute truth. And before a truth statement is being made or a claim to truth is being made, you don't know how to adjudge this person. Kasi hindi pa siya nagsasalita eh. Only after he speaks or he publishes his news or his painting or whatever, and then we hear it through mass media, we compare it with what we know of the same incident, and we say this guy is either telling the truth or not. That is where the truth comes in, not before you participate in the exercise of freedom of speech, expression, and the press. Malinaw ba? Malinaw? Malinaw yon. Malinaw. You cannot use the standard of truth. Sinasabi nila, if assuming na alam nila kung ano yung katotohanan, they cannot use it to argue that this class of people, like bloggers and vloggers, cannot do journalism because they are not capable of handling the truth. What the hell is that? What is the basis for that statement? There's no basis for that statement at all. Not in philosophy, not in whatever body of knowledge, not even in science, not even in mass media and journalism. There's nothing there that says only journalism would reveal the truth to its students. Doesn't say anything about that. Doesn't say anything about that. Okay, and the truth is not the business of journalism. Okay, if there is a course that talks about truth, it's not even a law. It's not law. It, if there is any body of knowledge that discusses truth in detail, in depth, it is philosophy. It's philosophy of knowledge. For example, a philosophy of knowledge is what we call epistemology. Epistemology. Yan yun, discussion ng truth. Yan, what is truth and the different theories that would explain kung alin ang totoo o alin ang hindi. And even in philosophy, maraming theories kung ano ang totoo o ano ang hindi totoo. So, theory pa lang, theoretical pa lang. Even science admits na we don't know the truth. We are also discovering it. And that's why every time, every day, we discover something new. If we already knew the truth, then we wouldn't discover anything new at all because we already knew it beforehand. But science, which is the most likely body of knowledge that would stumble on what is true, science does not claim to know the absolute truth. Okay? Science does not claim that at all. So, anong tungkol mo palabasin ng social media? Wala. Ang sinasabi ko lang, hindi mo pwedeng bawalan ng kahit sino na pumunta sa Malacanang press corps o sa Malacanang briefing and to do whatever they want. Wala pwedeng magbawal dyan. Anong pakialam ng pera dyan? Anong pangalan dyan? Natano, Jedic, Rep, whatever, Pablo. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with ano yung sinasabi mo dyan? Bakit nagpipilita na dumaan sa kayo? What are you talking about? You're saying all of these things. I'm not. Basahin nyo nga ito pinagsasabi nitong isang to. Tell me if this comment makes any sense in relation to what I said. What the hell is that? Does that even make sense? Is that my argument? Parang tipo, business is business. Yeah, whatever. Sige. But sinasabi ko na sa'yo, you are not talking the same things that we are talking about here. You have the freedom to do that, but you can't convince me that you have a brain, man. Right. That's it. Hence the call for balanced reportage. Okay. What is balanced reportage? Let's talk about that. Kasi sa discussion ng truth, sa epistemology, for example, science is not free from influences that would influence their decision on what to experiment about. Okay? Ang mga scientists, random yun silang, hindi random yung pipiliin nila kung ano yung i-experiment ko ngayon. So that malaman ko anong katotohanan dito and then I will publish it to the world and they can test it on their own and tell me kung mali ako o hindi. The choosing of what to observe in case of journalists or artists where they go out there into the world is not objective. It is subjective. It is based on the values that person has Okay, kung halimbawa ang isang tao ay wala naman siyang interest sa business dahil anak siya na magsasaka. And later on, when he goes to school and becomes a journalist, it's likely that he won't go to business meetings of companies and study companies and what they are doing in business because he's not interested in business. So, ang pipiliin niya ay yung malapit sa puso niya. Like, kung magsasaka siya, pag-aaralan niya ano nangyari sa agrarian reform o sa patubig. See? So, ang pagpili ng mga bagay na inire-report in journalism and news is not objective. It is based on the value of each journalist that goes out there and observes the world. Ang isang tao na medyo may alam sa science, or hindi, wag na science, hindi maganda yun. Ang isang tao na may alam sa nakakaintindi ng paano gumalaw ang mga pulis, ano ang reason kung bakit ginagawa ng mga pulis ang kanilang ginagawa sa kanilang araw-araw na hanap buhay sa kanilang profession. That person, when assigned to the police beat, yung mga sumusunod sa mga pulis, kung may mga operation, would be reporting on that matter more effectively than a person who knows nothing about police operations and the principles why police can do this and do that, and also put in the same situation, he won't be reporting something as news which is going to be as effective as the other person's output. Bakit? Kasi ako interesado dyan. Kaya hindi ko yun siya aaralin, hindi ko yun siya pipiliin mong i-report. Why am I talking about that? Because if it is truth, that is the requirement for the exercise of press freedom and journalism, then who can tell me what is true and what truth I want to know? Kayo, namimili lang kayo ng kung ano-ano dyan at random, kung anong gusto nyong i-observe and then i-report to us. But that's not the truth that I want. I want other truths, but you are not giving it to me. So, do we say that you are not being truthful to me? Do we say that? Of course not. What we are saying is that, maybe what you're saying, reporting in the news is true, but that's not the truth that I want. I want the truth about the fish in the river somewhere in Bicol. I want what's going on there. But nobody is giving it to me. So, because of that, sasabihin natin, lahat ng mga journalist na ito na nag-report, kasinungaling sila, they're publishing fake news? Of course not. We don't do that. But why do they do that to the bloggers? Why do they do that to the bloggers? Diba? Isn't that ridiculous? Now, we cannot judge them on something because naturally, what they will report on is that's something that they chose to report on, or their bosses chose to report on. But let's say that what the report is true, and I hear it and I watch it on TV, and I say that's not the truth that I want. I want the truth about the sun in 600 years from now. So that no reporter is saying anything about the sun 600 years from now, they're all lying to me. It's not correct. It's wrong. And that's why nobody really judges journalism based on truth. Because you do not know the truth that I want. You do not know the truth that everybody needs at any single time. Diba? Kung ako ngayon naglalakad ako, naligaw ako, hindi ko alam kung anong street ito. So I watch the news and I don't get any information about what street this is. Do I call this news all fake? Because they say nothing of this truth? I mean, you don't. Diba? Because, the truth, according to philosophers and everybody agrees with this, it's Plato, Aristotle, they agree with this. They believe, and they are the experts on truth, they believe that truth is immutable. It's immutable and it's self-contained. that it does not depend on anything outside of itself, so that what is true now would be true like 600 years from now. That is what it means when we say immutable. It cannot change. It's the same thing, because the truth is the truth and it will not change. It makes sense. Di ba? And ang sabi nila, the truth is self-revealing. So, kung totoo daw yung isang bagay na yan, makikita mo sa bagay na yan itself ang katotohanan, which is a really crazy statement. Because in order for this statement to be true, it should be true. I mean, what the hell is that? So, ang ginawa nila is, dahil truth is immutable, but ang nangyari, noon, ang paniniwala natin, flat yung mundo, at tayo yung center of the universe, and then pagdating ni Kepler, pagdating ni Galileo, nakita natin na hindi naman pala tayo ang center ng universe, at hindi naman pala flat yung mundo. So what happened to the truth? That the world is flat and we are the center of the universe. If the truth is immutable, then why do we believe now that it is not in fact flat and is not in fact the center of the universe? So do we say then that ang mga tao noon ay mga kasinungaling silang lahat? Of course not. Di ba? Because truth does not have anything to do with it has nothing to do with a status of the truth claim to everyone in every circumstance, in every situation, in every possible world. So if there are people in Mars living there that we never knew, that they were born there independently of us, however they got there, we don't know. But what is true here should also be true in Mars. But we know that while we here in this Earth, we have an atmosphere, there is none in Mars. So what the hell is that? Diba? And if it is true that water here is liquid, it should be, if it is the truth, that water is liquid also anywhere. But diba? Some places like Alaska and Siberia, we know that water is seldom liquid there. I mean, most of the year it's like solid. Now maybe there's changes because of the global warming, but then again, it doesn't defeat the argument. It's the same thing. Truth, according to the classical definition of truth, classical means in Aristotle, in Plato, in Socrates, and all those old people, they believe that truth, if you are able to discover it and able to handle it, you're done. You know everything. You don't need to know anything anymore by asking anyone what, because you're supposed to be like all-knowing already. You are going to be a god. Well, good luck with that. I mean, if we allow the journalists to handle the truth and to tell us the truth, and every time they gave it to us, we become gods, when did that ever happen? Sometimes they even commit mistakes in what the hell they report, and they publish errata, mga erratum sa newspaper. And they say, sorry po, we just got it wrong and stuff like that. So, okay, nagkakamali din pala kayo. So you do not know the truth. Because if you did know the truth, then you won't make any mistakes about it. Because no one knows the truth. And for these Rappler people to say that we are the protectors of truth, that's really lying to you. It's lying to you. These people in media that say we are the guardians of truth, you do not know what truth is. You do not know what you're talking about at all. You're just pretending that what you're doing has something to do with truth, and you think that you're protecting it for our safety or whatever, for our benefit. But they don't. They do not know the truth. They're just as ignorant as we are about it. We are as ignorant as Plato and Aristotle and Socrates about the truth. Because all those people didn't even know what the hell it was. And until now, we are still trying to find out which theory of truth is the proper theory of truth. There's science, there's idealism. Yung idealism now later on became um, simply like mathematics and all that. Na sa science kasi, there is a statement of truth. There is an apple on the table. In science, ang kanilang standard for saying that that statement is true is we look at the table. If there is a fruit there that looks like an apple, then that statement is true. That statement is true. Okay? But how can you do that when someone says and makes the claim to truth that says 1 plus 1 is 2? Do you see 1? What does it look like? What we see in mathematics is the symbols for 1 and 2 and plus and division and subtraction and all that. These are symbols. These are not like apples that they exist in the real world. Okay? Love, for example. How do you know that love exists when you do not see it? Hope, God, stuff like that. How do you know that when I say I love you, that it is true? When you do not see love flying from me and going into you and making you feel like I love you. That doesn't happen. You cannot perceive it. You cannot see it in the real world. But we believe with all our hearts, like everyone believes this, that someone out there loves me and probably wants to marry me so that we can have a happy family and children and all that stuff. People believe in love. But have you seen love in the real world? No. It's an idea. It's a feeling. And a different theory applies to that in order for us to say whether or not the statement is true. In science, in objective mechanically based statements like there is an apple on the table, there is an electric fan 5 meters away, is observing the world and comparing the statement to what you perceive in the world. And if they jive, if they like correspond to each other, then that statement is true. But how can you do that in love? How can you do that in a triangle? A triangle is something that has 3 angles and 3 sides. Eh, Do you see that on Earth? I mean, you can see something that has 3 angles and 3 sides, but that is not a triangle. That is just a symbol of a triangle. That is, a triangle does not exist in the real world. It's an ideal thing. It's an ideal concept. It's an idea, like communism. You see communists, you see communist governments, but communism is an ideology. It's an idea. It's a thought. It's a concept. How do you know now that concepts are even true in the first place if you do not see them in the real world and observe if they jive with the statement somebody says about it? Di ba? So now, even the great thinkers in science and the great thinkers in non-science that talks about what is good, what is love, what is a triangle, what is all that stuff, they don't even agree on the same standard of truth. Science follows the empirical system of truth or system of judging whether or not something, a statement is true or not. Whereas non-science, like sociology, like psychology, well, psychology science na raw siya ngayon eh. But before it was declared like part of science, it was just like humanities. It was just like philosophy, sociology, political science. They are not really actual hard sciences that would validate their statements by looking at the world and seeing actual existing things out there that they can use to compare to their statements and therefore judge them as true or false. When it comes to love, when it comes to Holy Spirit, when it comes to uh, hope and trust, you cannot use the real world to compare it to and then tell if it is true or not. An example of these kinds of things is what is good. What is good? Paano natin makikita sa mundo kung anong mabuti, anong hindi? We are just seeing examples of what is supposed to be a good action by looking at a body of beliefs that would say na ito yung mga bagay na nagde-define kung ano yung mabuting gawain. Like the Ten Commandments. But the Ten Commandments does not list every possible action that every possible human being can ever do in his life, in this earth. But most of us believe that our lives can be guided by the Ten Commandments. And that if we only follow the Ten Commandments in everything we do, we will go to heaven. How do we know now that that is true? You don't even know if an action is actually really good or bad because it's not in a list of good things and a list of bad things. There's just like statements that do not honor your father and mother, do not use my name in vain, and all that stuff. It doesn't say there that this is wrong, that is wrong. Eating before drinking water is wrong. There's nothing like that. I mean, in fact, you can do anything. And there is really no proof yet that those people who did bad stuff actually were punished after they died. Those people who were caught by the police after they did something wrong, bad, and punished and put in jail, malas nila. Kasi nahuli sila. Pero yung mga taong kriminal na gumawa ng ano, but they were not caught. Do we know if they're punished after they died? We don't. We don't see them going to hell or whatever the hell is, or heaven, whatever heaven is. We don't know that. Why? Because there is nothing that exists out there that we can see, that we can hear, that we can taste, that we can touch, that we can use to verify the statement that there is a heaven. What applies there? The principle there is not correspondence as in science, but coherence. Coherence, what does it mean? Coherence means something, a claim, agrees with the general theory that we all are told beforehand. So halimbawa, the Ten Commandments, we are told beforehand when we were young, we were kids, that these are the guiding lines that we have to follow in our lives so that we can go to heaven or we are considered good persons and all that stuff. Such that later on in life, if I help someone in the street because he's hungry and he's in the middle of the street and he's probably gonna die if there's a truck that passes over him, I helped him. I looked at the Ten Commandments and then it says, okay, so I didn't do anything wrong there, and in fact, I actually helped someone. So I'm good. I'm good. So coherent. Yung aking ginawa is coherent with what is a definition of what is good, or what is Christian, or what is a good Samaritan. That is what is meant by coherence. And those are the two theories of truth. First is the mechanical, empirical, and physical correspondence of things that exist in the world and the statements that we make about them. But not all statements that we make about the world are about physical things. We make statements about love, we make statements about hope, we will make statements about points and lines and angles. And those things do not exist in the real world. So how can we say now that a triangle has three sides when we haven't even really seen a triangle in the world before? We have seen a drawing of a triangle, but we can only say that a drawing is a triangle if we look at a rule that says a triangle has three sides and three angles. We look at a drawing and say, that is a triangle because it agrees with the definition. Diba? So, how do you know that 1 and 1 is 2? You do not see 1 and 1 and 2 in the world. In fact, sometimes 1 plus 1 is 3 children. 1 plus 1 is 20 children. Sobrang libog talaga ng mag-asawa na yan. So, it's not necessarily 1 plus 1 is 2. But, since we do not follow correspondence, which is used by science, in things that do not exist in the real world but are only ideas, we use coherence to judge if it's true or false, then we do not worry about seeing triangles in the world in the first place because there's a definition of a triangle. I'm looking at a drawing that says it's a triangle. I look at the definition and it fits. That is a triangle. That statement is true. We do not need to look at a triangle, find a triangle, hunt a triangle in the world because it does not need to be verified that way. Talk about electrons. Science has never seen an electron ever before. Nothing in this world can ever say they have seen an electron. But we believe in electrons. That we believe that a hydrogen atom has so and so many number of electrons and an oxygen atom has so and so many number of electrons. But have we seen an electron? No. How do we know now that an electron exists? How do we know now when we say a hydrogen atom has one electron and one proton and therefore one neutron also? When we have never seen an electron on Earth ever before, because there is no way to see an electron because it's always moving and it's so small, and there's no microscope that can ever see something that keeps moving all over the place. But we believe in electrons. Science, physics is based on electrons, on our belief in electrons, our belief in positrons, in muons, in all these things that are very difficult to pronounce because there's ooons and ooons and ooons. How do we know now that those things that talk about electrons are true when we haven't seen an electron in the world? We will look at the definitions that scientists have made in the past, and they say electrons are always moving, and they try to guess how many electrons in every atom, and the jive naman to dahil kung ang tubig is H2O, one hydrogen, oxygen, ganyan. So malamang H2O means there are how many electrons for hydrogen, how many electrons, because of those definitions, not because they've seen these electrons on Earth. Di ba? So now, how do we tell the truth about the things that journalists say? Do we use coherence or do we use correspondence? They don't tell us which theory we should use in order to decipher what they're saying to us as news. They do not give us any guidance at all. So here I am, a scientist, and I'm hearing a journalist saying that this person loves the Filipinos. I am a scientist, so I need to see love here, actually, in the real world. I need to see love, whatever the hell it is, however it looks like in the real world. Does it have two eyes? Does it have 3 feet? Does it look like human beings? What? So now, because I'm a scientist and I cannot see love in the world because it does not really exist out there in the world, I will say this journalist is lying to me. There is no love in the world, and this person does not love the Filipinos at all. But every single day, somebody says, I love you. Somebody says, I love this country. Somebody says, I love this food. I love this music and everything. And we seem to understand it. And we seem to believe our girlfriends and boyfriends when they tell us they love us. But how the hell do we know that they really do? Or that love even exists? See? So, sa gulo pa lang na pag-uusap tungkol sa katotohanan, itong mga journalist na nagsasabing kami lang may alam ng katotohanan are being ridiculous. They are not saying something that means anything at all. So that if they do not know anything about the truth, then they cannot say that somebody else or other people know or do not know the truth. Because hindi nyo nga alam kung ang katotohanan, paano yung masasabi ng mga vloggers ay hindi nagsasabi ng katotohanan? What the hell? See? So, bringing truth into this entire issue is useless to them. It will not help them because they do not know anything about the truth. And Jesus, maybe they do not know anything about what I'm saying right now. But this is in philosophy books and have been taught over and over again over centuries since Plato and Aristotle and Socrates. But do they know anything about it? No. How would they even now claim that they know the truth? and even Plato and Aristotle and Socrates and the great philosophers, they can even say we actually know the truth. So, what the hell? Makakatulong ba sa inyo ang pag-uusapan ng katotohanan dito sa issue ng vloggers sa Malacanang? I don't think so because you don't know anything about the truth. Even I don't know anything about it. I just know the theories. I just know how to explain it to you, but I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it in the world, like atoms, like electrons, like protons. See? So, nakakapagod to ba ipaintindi sa mga tao, but I hope that you get the gist of this thing that nobody holds the truth against anyone else. That he is the only exclusive owner of truth. No one can say that in this world. No one, not even science does that. Right? That's it. That's my message for you tonight. Truth will never help the journalists win their argument because they don't know anything about it. That's it. Okay? Sorry na late ako. But bawi naman siguro natin, ba? So, there. Please like and share this. So mga basa to, ng marinig, mapanood to ng mga journalists na nagsasabing kami ang may alam na truth. Kami lang ang may training na magsabi kung alin ang truth, kung anong hindi. What the hell? You do not know what the hell you're talking about. You do not know the first thing about truth. Alright? Yes. Yun lang. So kung meron kayong tanong dyan, wag nyo na akong tanongin. I-post na lang doon, i-comment nyo na lang doon. So I will review it tomorrow and I will see kung meron kailangan i-address, then we will discuss it tomorrow. Again, maybe earlier tomorrow, like 10:40. Alright? Because I know a lot about the truth, but I do not know the truth itself. Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for listening and watching me saying all this shit. But I'm telling you, this is closer to what is true than those people ever will. Okay? This thing that I'm saying is closer to truth than saying the bloggers do not know the truth. Right? Okay, that's it. I'm done. Good night. Good night. Thank you, and please like and share and follow and subscribe to Luminous on Facebook and YouTube. And I will see you again tomorrow. All right? Goodbye, everyone.